Hey everyone, I hope all of you had a wonderful Christmas and welcome to Kayan Al-Bashar, where today we are going to build Squirrels Tavern. But before we really get into the build, I need to address the elephant in the room, which is where is the cinematic video for the first phase of Kayan Al-Bashar? And I can honestly say that Kayan Al-Bashar wasn't ready at the given deadline, and I could have put it out there, but then it would have been a little bit of like trying to get it out there, not because I'm happy with Kayan Al-Bashar in its state back then. And Dark actually said this when I started just spamming you guys day after day with like, oh, it's going to come out the next day, and he just said like, yeah, you should probably take your time with it, and most of us would rather for you or actually me to take my time with it and actually put it out when I'm happy with it. So that's basically what I did. I just thought like, alright, yeah, that's probably true. Like I can rush it out there and then feel really bad about it right after because, well, Kayan Al-Bashar, as I said, just wasn't really ready, and also I have proven my squirrel nature with it a little bit because I just kept adding to Kayan Al-Bashar, or at least the first phase of Kayan Al-Bashar, which is the commercial district, I would say. So that's where the Palace of Commerce is, the station, the harbor. Like I call that the commercial district for now, just to make it easy. But I just kept adding new builds to it. I mean, I already teased the Boathouse, which I originally didn't intend to build, but I just thought like, I want to build this, it's probably going to look amazing with it, so I just started building it and forgot that time existed. But then also whenever I finished the build, I saw the area next to it and just thought like, I need to add something to this as well, because now it just looks unfinished. And yeah, I just kept going like that, basically just adding a build, then adding a build next to it, until I'm now actually in the stages of actually like being happy with how it looks. So that's like a cohesive thing, that it feels finished, that it feels like it's worthy to be put out, I would say. So yeah, the cinematic video took a little bit longer. I'm not going to put a definitive date on it now because, I mean, literally after this video I can start building again and then forget something or see that I might need to add something else. But I can put like a rough estimate on it, which is either the end of this week, so this Sunday or somewhere around there, or next week. So in between those times it might be put up, but only if I'm like completely satisfied with how Kayan Al-Bashar is looking then. Because again, Kayan Al-Bashar, even though my PC hates it, is still, well, has become actually my baby. So yeah, I'm only going to put Kayan Al-Bashar out there if I'm fully satisfied with how it looks. And no, I do know that like phase 1 is phase 1. I should build the entirety of Kayan Al-Bashar, which is actually going into the second thing that I quickly wanted to address, which is a comment left by Marinari. I'm probably butchering your name, but I think that's a given by now for for this channel, which is that, well, I probably have just misspoken whenever I said how long I think Kayan Al-Bashar is going to take, but I think I gave the impression that I thought like, oh, it's going to be finished after 3 months. I think I meant to say that 3 months is probably the minimal amount of time I think I will still spend on Kayan Al-Bashar. The rough estimate on how long Kayan Al-Bashar will take is probably more close to, let's say, half a year, maybe even longer. Like we are now finishing up the first stage, and I think that Kayan Al-Bashar will have like, let's say 4 stages or maybe even 5. And probably if there were 5, there will probably be a little bit of variation in length of the phases, but yeah, I can say that I probably just misspoke back then whenever I talked about the length of Kayan Al-Bashar. I consider it a mega project, and a mega project for me is like Tianopolis, and Tianopolis, even though it's now on break, Tianopolis still took at least a year. So I don't think Kayan Al-Bashar will take a full year, because it just goes a lot faster with habitats and such, but yeah, I still think it will take, let's say, half a year more. But yeah, also, just a quick side note, Marinari, yeah, I'm butchering your name, but he made up this whole story that I would probably also make like the shop of the rope maker who supplies the ropes for the ships of Kayan Al-Bashar, and you're not wrong, he's actually already in here. Also, I'm going to build the stall of his sister. I think the rope maker was called, or at least Marinari called him Hakim, and the sister Fatima, and then I said that their cat, instead of, I forgot the name that Marinari gave, but I called the cat Topaz, but I'm going to build Fatima's stall also. I'm not sure how to put in Topaz the cat, but I might find out a way. I mean, I've built a rope maker shop. I had to look up how they made ropes back then. I mean, it's still pretty similar to how they do it now, I think. But I still had to look that up. I mean, I've had to look up quite a few things for Kayan Al-Bashar. And the biggest one of them is still the ships. Because I still think that shipbuilding by hand is an art in itself. But then I also had to look up how to make a medieval elevator, how to make basically everything. Actually, also how to make a somewhat accurate dock or harbor. So yeah, I had to learn a lot for Kayan Al-Bashar. But I should probably get back to the tavern, because it's probably a little bit of a weird building, because I know that drinking and Islam don't really go together. But here I wanted to go fully fantasy like with Kayan Al-Bashar, and I think in every fancy RPG you have like a tavern where you pick up the random fetch quest and such. So, well, that was the excuse that I used. I basically just wanted to build a tavern because I originally planned this as a little bit of the New Year's build. So let's just imagine that the tavern is actually basically where the channel takes place. So I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about this data, but let's just say you posted a funny comment I think a week ago, and let's just say barkeeper Yazir wants you to pay your tab. He's not happy. Yeah, I quickly just came up with a name for the barkeep of the Squirrels Tavern on the spot. But yeah, this was originally planned to be like the New Year's build, but I pushed it forward just so that I could address some things. Actually, I originally intended actually not to record building this thing. I originally intended to make like a short cinematic of going into this. And I've actually fully decorated the inside, which is hard, because again, all the pieces in Planet Zoo and Planet Coaster are more intended to build larger things and not chairs and such. But yes, the inside is as chaotic as you imagine the channel is. So yeah, I actually also thought of like maybe adding like a sign with like, let's say for Terra that she needs to pay the tab that she is owed by the barkeeper or the tavern keeper. And then like, because it's a tavern, I have built like rooms, or at least rooms, I've built doors, and then rooms, or at least imaginary rooms. And I originally just thought like, let's put signs next to the rooms as if you guys are renting out rooms in Kayan Al-Bashar or in Squirrels Tavern. So yeah, that's what I'm building right now with just wood, just because there's not a lot of color in the building. So if there's not a lot of color in a building, then I usually go for a lot of different materials, because then there's still a little bit of variation in the build itself. But yeah, I went a little bit insane with it. And oh, by this time I already deleted the first first experiment with the exhibits that are downstairs. But yeah, I forgot who said it, because I'm a squirrel. I am basically just well, in Dutch we call it a vergiet, or I think in English you would call it a drain, but then just how you say it doesn't make any sense. But basically, like, I forget a lot. But whoever said it, I've built a book. It's not floating, but it's a book, because I didn't want to have like the sort of like more modern / electronic looking, well, education things that you put by the exhibit. So now it might look like the guests are reading a book instead of just reading a screen or looking at a screen, which is a fun thing, and it's actually not taking a lot of pieces. And it's also the first time that I've used the basic shapes, I think, in Kayan Al-Bashar. It's a fun build. It's also completely accessible, actually, by the guests. Not that the guests really want to go upstairs, because there's not really much to do upstairs, but let's just imagine that they would. Let's just imagine, actually, if hotels get added into Planet Zoo, which I don't think they will, because I've rarely seen a zoo or heard of a zoo with a hotel attached to it. But I could then easily transform this building into a hotel. But yeah, so if I don't forget it, maybe when Kayan Al-Bashar gets released, or at least the first phase of Kayan Al-Bashar gets released, maybe some of you will have rented out rooms here. Like, yeah, this is really just a fun build to basically just include you guys a little bit more. Again, Terra, pay your tab. That was like, I would need to say, like, it wasn't the most useful comment, Terra, but it was certainly one of the funniest lately. But yeah, back to the actual build. So I've actually forgotten to build one thing in the tavern, which is, I originally wanted to put a fireplace in here, because with the Arctic DLC we got those, well, torches, so I could make a fireplace. But then I also thought, like, this is in the desert. And I know a desert can get quite cold at night, but still, let's just say I'm making up an excuse now because I really just forgot to put in a fireplace. But also, this might not be the best thing with a squirrel, but yeah, the exhibits hold snakes, because for some reason I always find snakes adorable. You guys probably won't, but well, it was snakes or spiders. I think both are adorable. Actually, with spiders, the larger the more adorable I think they are, because most of the time when they are larger, they are usually also a lot fluffier or a lot hairier. Yeah, if something is fluffy, I usually think it's adorable. I don't know why I find snakes then adorable, because they don't have any hair. I don't know, it's just the face. It looks adorable. Half of the time it looks like it has no idea what's going on. But yeah, so quickly building a book to cover the electronic thingy that the guests use for education. But yeah, I think that they might actually clip into this thing, because it's maybe a little bit too large for it. But yeah, I really forgot who said it, but there are books now in Kayan Al-Bashar, or at least 2 books, just for the exhibits, and I really like them. I also thought of like building floating books, but yeah, let's just say the tavern is already as chaotic as it is, so floating books would just made it completely insane. And I'm not going to build all the clutter of the tavern, because that took quite some time. I am, however, going to build all the lights, because I built chandeliers. Yeah, I already said that sometimes I'm a squirrel and I just build crazy stuff. And I can't stop building. But, I mean, I think it's now a good point because if I hadn't taken my time with Kayan Al-Bashar, first of all, this would have been a week later. Maybe even longer, because, well, let's face it, whenever I say, oh, it's going to take a week, it's going to take a month. So, but also, besides this, I have built a Boathouse, which I already teased when I first, well, not first, but delayed it from Sunday to Monday. So then I teased the Boathouse, which I didn't think I would build. Then I built a second bigger build, which I'm not going to spoil here. And I didn't build an inside for that one. The Boathouse does have an inside, which was tricky to build because water in Planet Zoo is sometimes annoying, especially when you want to have it small. But yeah, the second big thing that I built, I didn't build an inside for it because the function of it wasn't, let's just say, wasn't something that probably would be allowed. Well, it would probably be allowed, but it's a private thing, I would say. So that building doesn't have an inside. But I think the name of the building already tells a lot about what the building actually is. And it fits in with Kayan Al-Bashar just as much as the tavern because, yeah, drinking and the other building's function don't really go well with, you know, Islam, but again, like I wanted to basically make Kayan Al-Bashar not really like, well, I've actually tried to avoid talking about, let's say, religion as much as possible because Kayan Al-Bashar is a fantasy place. So let's just say this is just a place where you get the annoying fetch quest or, you know, escort quest or something like that. Or like Terra, have a tab that you still need to pay. I'm not going to let that go, I think. Hopefully, Terra, you're not annoyed by this or something. If you do, please do say it down below, because then I will stop talking about it. But yeah, I just want Kayan Al-Bashar to be basically for everyone. So I'm not going to tie Kayan Al-Bashar to a religion, even though the religion is heavily tied into the architecture style. Basically, I'm just going freehand with Kayan Al-Bashar. And you might also see that in Phase 2, because Phase 2 is going to be very different. Or at least how I now intend it to be, which is frosty. Yeah, I'm going to say that much about Phase 2. Frosty. So Alia might be happy about that, but it's going to be a little bit weird because it's, well, it's a similar architecture style, but it's just a very different region. Like, so far, I would say Kayan Al-Bashar has almost, I would say, stereotypical, like, Arabian / Islamic architecture style. And so I wanted to spice it up by adding maybe an architecture style which isn't that big. Which you wouldn't really imagine when you think of, like, Islamic / Arabian architecture. I mean, Kayan Al-Bashar so far has like put, or has a little bit of a mix of every architecture style around the Mediterranean and then Arabia as well. So yeah, I've put some architecture things from the Levant in here, some things from southern Spain, Turkey, North African coast, so there's just, it's a whole mix of everything. But I would say that the Squirrels Tavern is, yeah, it's pure fantasy. It's just mixing all of it together and just seeing what sticks. And I'm very happy with it. It's very open, and I think almost, let's say 80% of the building has those open windows, which again don't put in a lot of light or let in a lot of light, but you might have already seen it, but there's a skylight, or at least it has basically a bit of a fake facade, because after the front entrance, like after that wall, if you look up, it's just straight up open. So it has kind of like a fake facade. But then it has, well, the woodwork windows as, well, sky windows, I would say. Which actually looks very pretty, especially with the chandeliers I put in later. Yes, I usually don't really build lighting on screen. Like, I've never done that in TNL Plus, and so far I haven't really done it in Kayan Al-Bashar. But because I went completely insane with the lighting in the tavern, I just thought like, yeah, I'm going to add this. Like, this is a little bit more important than showing you the clutter. Or clutter, which I've actually put on the workshop. So, yeah, that was because of the second delay. Now I'm just like, yeah, the cinematic video and the first phase of Kayan Al-Bashar is going to come out whenever I think it's ready for it. Which, again, is probably pretty soon, actually. And with 3 extra buildings. Or at least not 3 extra buildings, but 3 extra bigger builds. And, well, Hakim has a place. Fatima, the orange seller, has a place. I still don't know how I'm going to put a reference to Topaz the cat in Kayan Al-Bashar, because, well, actually I could put in a reference to her. Topaz the cat, because I think in Aladdin the tiger is almost treated as a cat. But I'm not going to build a tiger habitat in the commercial district for Kayan Al-Bashar. Would be a bit too large. A little bit. Although the tiger is very fluffy. Yeah, I really just love the fluffy animals. But yeah, so far almost all of the walls have windows in them. And that is what makes this building into a, I think now 15k piece build. I mean, I think the Boathouse is a little bit bigger, but probably doesn't matter too much. Or at least doesn't variate too much. So, yeah, it's just a fun little build. And I really just planned this to be the New Year's build, but I needed to clear things up. Or at least address things before, well, things went insane. But I'm really happy actually with pushing it forward, because now you guys have it when New Year's is around. And maybe some of you guys will have rented rooms here, or at least I will have a reference to you guys. So, such as, let's say, Mariani, or, yeah, I'm butchering her name. I'm very sorry for that, but Marinari. And Tark, and Kane, and Tal, or Alia, and all of you guys maybe have like a room here. Well, not all of you guys. Maybe some of you guys need to share a room. Yeah, probably, because I think there are like 8 rooms. Some of you guys will need to share. Yeah, I should probably get back into the actual build, because otherwise I'm just going to go way off track. But I think you guys know that I do that. Like, I've had a whole video about Five Nights at Freddy's, then a whole video about stained glass, and now it's pretty much a whole video talking about why the cinematic video for the first phase of Kayan Al-Bashar was delayed. Also, if you guys say Kayan Al-Bashar without rolling the R, you're not talking about Kayan Al-Bashar. Kane knows what that means. But yeah, I'm very happy actually also that the second floor, or actually the first floor, but I usually count the ground floor also as the first floor. But let's just say the walkway luckily is thick enough to hide the pillars from downstairs. So luckily that works out well. So I could delete part of the pillars from downstairs so that they don't stick out through the walkway. Or just the second floor, or first floor, depending on how you call it. Probably I'm just calling it wrong, but like sometimes a word is just so ingrained into your mind that you just always call it by the wrong word. I really just like how it looks. Also, this is going into the skylight, or the sky window, because I mean, it needs to be enclosed in some way. It can't just open up into open air. There needs to be something. Also, because I wanted to put chandeliers in there, there needs to be something to hold it up, or at least some way that's connected to the rest of the building. I'm not going to build floating chandeliers. Would be a nice thing, but well, foliage and such of Kayan Al-Bashar is pretty much fantasy and complete magic. But the buildings I try to keep as realistic as possible, such as, let's say, chandeliers, they need to be attached to something. They can't be astronauts just flying about. And I just really like how, with the lighting in Planet Zoo, if it goes through the windows, as you can see in, well, let's just say if you pause the video at the right moment, you can just see like how the shadows and light create quite a magnificent picture, I would say. But now to the chandeliers, because for this one I have 3 versions of chandeliers and then just one standing light. But yeah, the first one we start off with is of course the biggest. Yeah, it's a huge chandelier. Well, actually it's not the biggest, because the station, or what is now called the Palace of Commerce, actually very huge chandeliers. And yeah, it was fun to try and light up the Palace of Commerce. This tavern was a lot easier to light up. Yeah, you will see those lights with the, what do you call them, the things that they have underneath them. But let's just say those lights you will see a lot in Kayan Al-Bashar, because those are the ones that pass for Arabian style lights a lot better. Also, again, to put in a little bit of the realism in the buildings, I'm not going to use torches a lot, because torches weren't really, well, from what I know they were used, but not as frequently as we see them being used in fantasy. I mean, especially with a building such as the tavern, there's a lot of wood there. You don't want to hold an open flame to that. So a lot of these lights are going to be inside something, encased in something, or in any sort of way, so that it's not just an open flame. Yeah, you're going to see this a lot. In the end, especially with the chandeliers hanging from the basically fake facade, I really just enjoy this place. It feels really cozy and really chaotic with all the clutter I later put in. I actually built benches and such. Actually, for the unnamed build so far, I built a bed, which was actually easier than I thought. I think you guys know by now what the unnamed build is. Probably shouldn't say it down in the comments, because that will probably get flagged. But yeah, the chandeliers are, I would say, amazing. Like, I didn't enjoy putting in the light in Planet Coaster, but in Planet Zoo I really like doing that. Just because it's, well, lighting is a lot better, first of all. With all the weather and such, and still, even with the lighting, you can still see like the light coming in from the moon through the sky window. And then also because the sky window isn't just open glass, it looks even more amazing. Yeah, I really love this build. Better, I would say, in a way than this Palace of Commerce, just because it's a lot more cozy and such. It's a lot smaller, first of all, which makes it a lot easier to decorate. Because a huge building like the station or the Palace of Commerce is actually quite difficult to build, or at least to clutter up, as I would say, or make look like it's lived in, just because it's so big that it's almost just impossible to make it feel like a lived in thing, just because then you would need so much pieces. And I would say that the first phase of Kayan Al-Bashar, we have probably reached the 200k pieces by now. Yes, my PC really hates it. And also with like the scheduling of Kayan Al-Bashar, as I said before, it's not going to last 3 months. I probably misspoke back then, or at least did something wrong. It's probably going to take a minimum of 3 months and can extend to, let's say, 1 year. But I think the earliest way that Kayan Al-Bashar is going to end is when my PC craps out. I mean, if every phase is going to be 200k pieces, I have no doubt that we will maybe not even reach the third phase. We're just going to see where it ends. Also, yes, this is a little bit of like, how much can I put on a light and still make it look somewhat okay. That's actually going to be it for today. As I said before, I'm not going to build the clutter on screen because that took quite some time. But all the clutter and like all the tables in the tavern that I'm going to add later on are actually going to be functional. The guests can use them. And I'm not going to put in like the after video views again, just because Kayan Al-Bashar so far is pretty well built up. So again, the same as with the ships, if I showed you guys the after video views, I would spoil too much of the rest of phase 1 of Kayan Al-Bashar. And you guys will basically have a lot of things that you will have or won't have seen me build. But again, for the cinematic video on Kayan Al-Bashar phase 1, again, probably either around this Sunday or next Sunday. A little bit of a rough estimate, but not a definitive answer of like, this is when it's going to come out. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you do, I hope to see you back in the next one. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more. And I wish you all an amazing day. And if I don't see you guys again, an amazing new year. Bye bye.